partnership with Cozy Owl, and today I'm going to be showing you how to make festive clamshell wax melts. So let's get going!
So let's see what we've got here. I have 800 grams of the soy pillar wax. I also have my little clamshells here with the little trees inside them. And I also have 50 ml of the winter pine, one of my favourites. To go with that, we have chosen the green dye, along with the fluorescent green candle glitter, which is also biodegradable. I also have a thermometer, an electric weighing scale, my melting pot and my wooden spoon. So now time to start measuring. So I'm wanting to make 6 of these clamshells, and each clamshell holds roughly 78 grams of wax each. So that means I'm going to need roughly 468. So let's round that up to 470 grams of wax. So now I'm all measured up, I've popped some boiling water in the bottom of this pan and just put my melting jug inside it to act as a bit of a double boiler. So I'm just going to give it a really good stir around, and I'll keep doing that during the time that it's melting. I'm not going to worry too much about the temperature at the moment. I'll worry about that when I get back to it. All I want to do now is get the wax melted all the way through, and I'll keep coming back and giving it a really good stir around just to help it out a little bit and speed up the process. So now my wax is melted all the way through, and I'll just quickly show you what it's looking like. So you can see there, melted nice and evenly. There's no heat on this hob either, so I'm just going to give it a little stir around, and I'll double check the temperature while I'm here as well, just to make sure that we're at the optimum temperature to start moving on to other things. So double checking the temperature, and it looks like we're a little bit over, so we're just nearly 80 degrees there. So I'm wanting this to cool right down, and I want it to be somewhere around the 65 degrees mark. So whilst that's cooling down, I'm just going to pop a little bit of glitter into my clamshells. So I'm going to get them nice and prepped. This shouldn't take me too long. I'm just wanting to sprinkle a little bit of this nice glitter just in the bottom of the clamshells. Like I said, this is biodegradable, so there will be no damage to your wax, and there will be no cause for burning or anything like that either. You're not coming in contact with any flames using your wax melts, so there's no need to fear the glitter. And then once I've finished sprinkling, I'm just going to give them a little bit of a shake, just to try and even them up a little bit, because I don't want big blotches. I just want it to be a nice even spread of glitter along the top of the clamshells. So back to the wax. So we should have cooled down nicely now. I'll just quickly show you how warm we are. So we're roughly 65 there. So I am now ready to start popping in my dye. I'll just give it a little bit of a stir around just to make sure that it's all warm all the way through, and we don't have any cool patches. And now I'm ready to add my dye. So I absolutely love this dye. You can use as much or as little as possible. I'm just going to pop a couple of pinches in here, but if you wanted a deeper colour, then you can always add a little bit extra. I usually use roughly 1 gram or so, depending on the measurement of your wax as well. So if you had a higher level of wax in there, you'd probably want to dump the whole thing in, which is just 3 grams in this little packet here. So once I've dumped all that in, I'm just going to give it a really good stir around, and just keep an eye on it, because you want the little wax pellets to melt all the way through. You don't want any of those little things left over, and that can happen sometimes if your wax has cooled too much. But you can always pop it back on the heat if that happens. So I'm just going to keep giving it a good stir around, and then once I'm happy with it, I'm ready to start measuring out my fragrance. So I did pop 470 grams of wax into this, so that means I'm going to pop in 30 millilitres of the winter pine here. I didn't really want to use any more than that. You can use up to 10%, which for this measurement of wax you could use around 47 millilitres, but I would never want to go that high. I just want a nice subtle undertone. I don't want anything to be really strong, and 30 millilitres in this measurement will be more than enough. So I definitely recommend going a little bit lower, because it is a really high scent throw fragrance anyway. And then once you're happy with how much fragrance you've used, just give it a really good stir around, just like you did when you popped your dye in. You want the fragrance to run all the way through the wax, and just double check the temperature once you have done that as well, just to make sure it hasn't cooled down too much, because the fragrance naturally will cool down the wax. If you have cooled down a little bit too much, you don't want to be any sort of lower than 55 degrees for the pouring temperature. If you do cool down further than that, then I do recommend popping it back on the heat and bumping it up to around 55 degrees. 55 degrees is probably the optimum temperature to be able to pour into these clamshells, just to prevent any leakage. So you can see there I'm at 55, so I am more than ready to pour now. So I'm moving on to my pour now. I always pour my clamshells and even my candles in 2 separate pours. So with this one, I'm just going to pour part way up, just in case when the wax shrinks there are any little air pockets, or if the surface is a little bit uneven. I like to be able to top it up and just make sure that I can get it nice and flat and nice and even. So I'm just going to pour a little bit of the way up and leave a little bit of a gap at the top, ready to re-pour in roughly half an hour when the first lot of wax has set. So you can see there I've left a little bit just in the bottom, ready to reheat and come back to. So I'll leave these to set for roughly half an hour to 45 minutes, and then I'll come back and do my second pour. So I left these for about 45 minutes here, and I'll just show you what they look like. They are a nice even surface, but I would just like to top them up and get them finished off. So I have reheated my wax back to 55 degrees. You want to do it at the same temperature as you did your first pour. So I'll just slowly go over the top of these. You won't need too much to top them up, and then it'll give them a really nice flat surface. And you can always add any extra glitter at this point as well if you want the glitter on top of the wax as well. Once you've finished your second pour, I recommend leaving them overnight to set. So 24 hours later, you're ready to use your wax melts. So the fragrance should be nicely bedded into the wax now, and they are set all the way through. So I've just taken mine out of the clamshell here. You can see how easy it is, and I've popped it on top of my wax melter with a little tea light, ready to go.